everyone, it's Jessie from b.a.r.e Flower Farm. It is August 30th, so it's Wednesday right now. It is close to 6 p.m. right now. Just got a workout in, and now I am doing some light harvesting as well as surveying the field to see what I can list for my co-op. I've got an unexpectedly busy week flower-wise, so I have a total of 16 bouquets going out the door. Now 12 of those 16 are $10 bunches. They are back to school, thank you teacher type of bouquets. They're for a friend who has supported me not just in my flower journey but also my soap journey, so I wanted to make it reasonable for her to thank her child's 12 teachers that she's had in her elementary school years, and we're gonna make the $10 bouquets work. So I thought I would take you along with me in terms of just one, what those $10 bouquets are gonna look like, as well as the other 4 bouquets that are more premium valued. There's a lot of gift giving this week in terms of like events that are happening. So we've got like an anniversary, we've got a party, we've got like some other type of event where someone wants flowers on their dining room table. So there's a bunch of stuff happening, and I am also going to be using rose lilies that I had from close to 3 weeks ago. So I want to show you how I basically have the flexibility to hold them in a cooler, how I time when I take them out, how they progress as they open. So I figured that'd be very interesting for some of you guys, and I've gotten so many questions on where I get my rose lily bulbs from, so we'll tackle that at the end of the video. Now, the first thing that I do is I look around, especially for all the places that I am growing lilies. So this is a bunch of rose lilies. Of course, I don't even know where the label is. Did I even label it? But regardless, I can tell that they're rose lilies, and I can tell that they're going to be white rose lilies. They're probably a Chardonnay or a Blizzard, and to be honest, it doesn't matter what the variety is because they look so similar, and the florists and my retail customers obviously don't really know the difference. So rose lilies are a lot more plump. They're a lot more hard feeling from the bulb perspective than a single lily, which you can see over here. This one is actually ready to harvest. So these will bruise a lot more easily, and even though these bulb heads don't bruise easily, they're actually very fragile, meaning that they'll just knock off quite easily if you're not too careful. So it's something you want to be mindful of. But I can look at this, and I know now from enough experience that one, it is going to be a relatively above average hot type of week for post Labor Day. So we're gonna have like mid to high 90s next week, and that is going to really accelerate the ripening or the opening of these. So if I wanted these for an event, let's say in like 2 weeks, I would actually harvest them maybe tomorrow morning. I think that they could even be harvested right now. It's a little bit early, but for something like a white rose lily, it doesn't matter, because the problem with harvesting lilies a bit too early is that you lose the vibrancy or the color saturation on the lily. So because these are white, it doesn't matter, right? Like there's no such thing as a more vibrant white rose lily. So, but because I don't need them, and I kind of need them, I need some of them for Friday, I'm going to keep these in here. And then I'm also going to list a few bunches for pre-order on my co-op, and I sell them in bunches of 5. So I can easily list 2 to 3 bunches here from this space alone. Now, believe it or not, I am on my last succession of OT hybrids. So I am growing predominantly 2 types of lilies. I'm growing OTs as well as LA hybrids. Now, the rose lilies are a type of OT. It's a double OT, so they're bred to be double, but they are part of the Oriental Trumpet family, and they are fragrant. The rose lilies are a little bit less fragrant. The LA hybrids, however, Longa Floral Asiatics, they have no scent. So those are being grown for fall, and I'm trying to hit Thanksgiving, and I didn't want the scent of lilies to compete with the food on the table, especially for Thanksgiving. So I'm curious to see how they will do, but they are a long ways away. So this is my last succession of the OT hybrids, and I kind of screwed up a little bit, and I'll show you how. I screwed up in a couple of ways. The first being that this is supposed to be a lily bed. You can see that there are non-lily things growing here. I've got some celosia, got like basil down here, some weeds, tomato, amaranth. I'm letting them grow because I actually need these for the fall. These are all self-seeded from my compost. I had a feeling that my compost didn't get hot enough, and this is just a lovely surprise because I'll get some tomatoes as well as some stems that I can sell at my co-op and use bouquets with. But let's talk about lilies here. So there are some lilies that had some bud abortion. This being the best example over here. You can see that there's some great leaf growth, but 0 buds. This is what happens when you grow in too hot of a condition and you did not cover the bulb adequately with soil. I knew this was going to happen, and yet I did it. I was so tired that day and I called it quits. I just covered the bulbs with like a very thin layer of soil, and this is what happens. They got extremely stressed. Now, luckily, I have some successful lilies here, and I believe that these are also this is a rosa. So I believe this is also a double lily over here. There is some shading from the celosia and the tomato, but I think these might also make it to my co-op. But I will likely just harvest these when these are a little bit more ripe and just keep them in my cooler for whenever I need them. So this is the beauty of rose lilies. They are super flexible like a tulip. And if you have a cooler, you have so much flexibility, especially if you pick it at the right time. Now, if you want some more comprehensive, just full on when to harvest lilies, depending on when you need them for regular lilies, I have a video on that. So I will link that in the description below and post it up here for those watching on the computer. That one is more centered around the single lilies. Since that video, I've grown a lot more of the rose lily doubles, and I just feel like I have a lot more experience working with them now. So it is now the next morning, and the pre-orders for my co-op next week, the one that I sell to for florists, they're starting to roll in, and I actually sold 2 bunches of the white rose lilies, which is exciting because first of all, I haven't sold as many rose lilies in the recent weeks, and I sold this bunch to one of our biggest designers who has yet to buy rose lilies from me, or lilies for that matter. I actually saw them do an installation with lilies last week, and I was really excited to see that. And they bought 2 bunches of the white rose lilies. So I just came out here to check on them. They look roughly the same before, but I also wanted to talk about how I've been getting a little bit more creative with using stuff that I have here, especially with the designers. There are things that I see listed and that the designers buy that I'm just like, whoa, like great idea. Never thought about that. I think the main ones being earlier in the season, like blueberry stems, and just like the foliage with the berries, especially when the berries are not yet blue, they're still that like green turning blue stage. That's when they're super popular. People are selling raspberry vines with the raspberries on them. So what did I do? I decided to sell my volunteer cherry tomato vines. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So another bed with a lot of volunteer tomatoes coming out. This over here is a really good example of what I'm talking about. So I would cut this down here, and you would get this whole stem to design with a little bit of the cherry tomatoes. And I keep them usually green because by the time they're yellow, they're a little bit too fragile to stay on the vine. But yeah, I listed, I think, 3 bunches of these. So I sell them also for 5 stems a bunch. I'm selling them for $2.95. And honestly, we have so many cherry tomatoes that like we end up either giving them away or honestly just composting them, because one can only eat so many cherry tomatoes. They're not great for canning either. So yeah, this year we honestly haven't even eaten that many of these because I think we still have a bit of just like tiredness from last year in terms of eating so many. But yeah, these are all volunteer tomato vines, and instead of weeding them out, I was like, why don't I try selling them? And they've been selling. I sold 3 bunches last week, sold 1 bunch this week so far, and we'll see if anyone else picks up on that bunch. But over here, while we're at it, is a Zelmira lily that should be ready actually, I would think in the next few days. I can now tell that Zelmira is this like peach color, and when it gets to this stage, it just needs like another day or 2 before I would harvest it for the fridge. I could even harvest it right now, but it would of course lose a bit of its vibrancy, which I want to avoid for that beautiful peach color. Just because I do have it ready over here, This is also another crate of Zelmira. Again, what happens when you grow in suboptimal conditions, which is the heat. So these lilies are a lot smaller. I mean, we're talking maybe about like 10 inches over here, which is not great, but at the end of the day, people can still work with these. This is ready to harvest. So I'm gonna harvest this immediately after. I wanna harvest it before this has started to lift from the bud. So this over here is exactly the color that you're looking for on a peach lily. This over here is obviously not yet developed, but it will continue to develop over time. This over here, if it does open, will be closer to white. But yeah, I have a crate of Zelmira over here, a crate over there. They're my most popular single lily. And the other thing I just want to say is, look how weedy this area is. And I'm still able to grow stuff. So I just want to say to people out there, where if you feel like the weeds have overtaken your space, which clearly mine have over here. I've got some lisianthus that I've been keeping weed free more or less, but everyone has the same issue in August. And especially since I don't use any landscape fabric, it's a little bit worse, but you're still able to grow stuff. So every day I chip away at it, maybe about like 15-20 minutes or so, and I'm able to clear a small area, and little by little I'm taking the area back, and it is going to get cooler, which is going to help with the weed pressure. I was coming here to put my lilies in the fridge, and I got this note from Eric: open slowly. I hear some beer cans rattling, but then I see he put the yogurt in here. So I mean, I guess it's not ethylene emitting, and trying to maximize the space. But you can see I've got the lilies I just harvested, as well as some dahlias back here that are hydrating, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we work with the dahlias. I've got about half an hour to make some bouquets, and I want to get those $10 bouquets out of the way. So I got to make a dozen. I have a few ideas in terms of recipes, and we're going to talk about what I do with keeping profitability in mind over here. So this is what I have to work with. I have quite a bit. I have some lisianthus over here. I'm going to reserve the colored ones for my premium bouquets. I still have quite a bit of cream colored ones outside. I have some normal lilies in here. The rose lilies I am reserving for the premium bouquets. Got a bit of dahlias over here. So these were conditioned, and let's talk about how I condition them. There's a lot of different things out there in terms of what we can do to prolong the dahlia vase life. Some people like to scorch the bottom or put it into boiling water. I don't do that. I put them into like warm water. I let them sit out for a little bit, and then I do put them into the fridge, and they're always into holding solution, which has a little bit of carbohydrates. And then when they come out, they will go into a bucket also with holding solution until they go to the customer. And what I've just read and talking to other flower farmers, the refrigeration really does help them with the hydration. And I would expect this to have at least like 7 days of vase life, maybe 5 at the worst. So I think that's a pretty reasonable amount of time for dahlias. And then I have some extra stuff over here, which is going to help us with the profitability margin. Before we start making the bouquets, a couple of things to remember with $10 bouquets. If you want to keep them profitable, you got to keep your labor costs down, which means fewer flowers to harvest, fewer flowers to put together, to fuss around in a bouquet. That's fundamental number one. Fundamental number two is I don't just sell $10 bouquets. This is a mass quantity type of situation. 12 bouquets at $10, which is a total of $120 in revenue. And I view this as better than like a grocery store or a consignment type of bouquet, where I only need to make a $10 value bouquet. It's not like I have to make like a $15 value bouquet and I'm selling it to another retail location for $10, but the expectation is that it's worth $15. The expectation for this is that it is worth $10. And again, this is a friend, which means that if she even wanted 5 bouquets, I would have done it. But I do want to say that if it's at least like, I would say like 8 to 10 bouquets, the $10 bouquets might actually be worth your time, especially if it's a once in a while type of situation. First one up is this one. This is 5 stems. We've got 1 lily stem, one lisianthus, one dahlia. So I'm valuing each of these at $3. And then we've got two filler type of stems, which is a snapdragon and celosia. Now, typically snapdragon I wouldn't consider as a filler. I'm getting a second flush, which is a little bit more puny, a little bit more skinnier. So I think that this would be great for just, you know, a small bouquet. And, you know, you've got some premium focals in here. So literally took me like 30 seconds to put together. I don't have to worry about how it's arranged. You know, the intent of this is that they're gonna hopefully put it into a thinner vessel. That's really the name of the game here, is that when you have a smaller bouquet without a lot of stems, you wanna make sure that people are not putting into like a wide mouth type of vase, and they put into a thinner one, then it's gonna look great, especially once the lilies open. So we are gonna follow the same recipe. I have 12 bouquets, of which I'm probably gonna do 50% with lilies, because usually that's the breakdown. Half the population likes lilies, half the population doesn't. You factor in, some people also might have some animals. So I'm gonna try to do maybe 5 or 6 with lilies, and then the other rest of the bouquets without lilies. So that was actually just under a minute a bouquet, including wrapping, which took the longest, but these look pretty good for $10. So it's easier to make $10 bouquets when you've got bigger blooms like this crazy dahlia, when you've got multiple buds on a lisianthus, and then you have multiple buds on a lily. So every single bouquet had no more than 5 stems. Some of them even had 4. This one had 4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can make these bouquets quite profitable if you have the right ingredients. And the point here is that I didn't go crazy with greenery. I'm not growing a lot of green stuff, and I didn't want to spend the time to go foraging. So this is what you get, and I think they look pretty good. Next up, let's make some non-lily bouquets. It's gonna be very similar, except just not gonna have a lily in there. So let's start with one stem of lisianthus, one stem of dahlia, one stem of straw flower, and call it 2 stems, or 1 stem of statice, 1 stem of celosia. There you go, $10. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stems with 2 premium stems, so that being the lisianthus and the dahlia. We got a big head of straw flower and some filler, and that's it. So again, very profitable, because this filler is really low value in general, but it bulks it up, and it partially is because I have so many heads on the straw flower. And we're done. Also took me about 7 minutes this time, because I was fussing around with some rubber bands, but I would argue that these are more profitable than my premium focal bouquets that I sell for $25, which I need to make tomorrow. But yeah, look at these 2 buckets. I will put these into round buckets tomorrow, because they're going to be held at the school. But this is 12 $10 bouquets that are profitable to me. I just feel like it's win-win for everyone. All right, it's about 2.5 hours later, picked up the baby, got a workout in. I need to make at least 2 of the 4 arrangements right now. So 2 of them are regular wrap bouquets, and the other 2 were requested to be in jars. And I actually have an extra one for unfortunately a mom who lost a child in a drowning incident. So that is an extra bouquet that I'm giving to my friend who ordered the dozen $10 bouquets. And I was like, this one's on me, because obviously that's a very tragic incident. So we're gonna make that 5th bouquet later, but right now let's get to the 2 deluxe ones. And I'm gonna try to just pump these out. I actually have to work a little bit after and in the morning, which is kind of throwing things off, but I'm gonna try to get these out and I'll show you what they look like when I finish. And here we are. That took about 5 minutes to put together 2 bouquets. They each have only 12 stems. It looks like they have a lot more, but it's 12 stems for $25, and that 12 stems also includes the celosia that we have over here, but of course it also includes some more premium stems. We've got some of this Amistad rose lily. We've got a bunch of the pink Stoma, which is lisianthus, and some regular lilies over here. So this one is gonna go for an event tomorrow, and this one is gonna go for a customer who is gonna be able to enjoy some of these blooms opening up throughout the week. Guys, it's the morning of Friday, so both delivery and pickup. Gotta make these 2 more jar arrangements. It's been quite a night. I cannot wait to sleep in tomorrow. I think that summarizes everything, but I just went out and picked a few more dahlias, a few more lisianthus. Just gonna make these jars and show you how they look after. Here they are. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. I subscribe to Little Farmhouse Flower Pro, and literally last night she had this video that showed how she makes her bridal hand-tied arrangements hands-free in a jar, and she uses a wider bottom opening jar, and it kind of looks like a honey, I don't remember what it's called. I'll put a picture up here. But anyway, she uses this method of building a jar, and this is not an optimal jar. I know that she would crush every single mason jar in the US if she had the chance to. But the point is that I was trying to implement some of her practices and just trying to create some more layers, some more height interest. And so I think this looks really good. I'm super happy. These are worth $25. So this one's gonna go for a birthday. And this one is going to go for the mother who lost a child. So I'm going to wrap these up with some twine. I just got some new business cards in yesterday. I'm gonna put them on all of these. These sat last night outside. This would be too big to put into my refrigerator. Last night it got down like 52 degrees, so it's still a little bit cool outside, and I'm gonna get this all prepped, start my day early with some coffee. I got some very early morning meetings. Hopefully I'll be able to deliver these, and then probably need to work a little bit more before we sign off for Labor Day. Ooh, just one quick thing. I want to talk about my favorite dahlia that I've been growing this year, and it's this one. It's called Polka. She's got this like deep wine red streaks, a cream colored head, and earlier in the season there was no yellow, so I'm thinking that the yellow is dependent on weather, but it is so gorgeous and it sells really well at my co-op. Honestly, all the dahlias have sold well because I was among the first to get them. So this week I listed a bunch for pre-order. They actually haven't been snapped up yet. They usually would be, but they normally get snapped up on Market Floor, so we'll see. The dahlias at my co-op go for $2.50 to up to like $3. We actually think we charge a little bit on the low side for the designers. Like I would charge like a $3 for something like this. But yeah, it's just, you know, when you have so many dahlias to work with, and they realistically have the short vase life, right? So I think that it's one of those things where if you have someone to sell it to, it's very, very profitable. But when you don't have anyone to sell it to, you basically need to deadhead them continuously to make sure that they continue blooming. And then they're almost worth a lot less because they have such a short vase life, right? There's a huge difference between me growing something like a rose lily, where even though I treat them as an annual and the cost is higher, I have so much more flexibility in terms of how quickly I need to use those stems. I can use them 3 weeks later. But with a dahlia, I literally need to use them within days when they're when I see the bloom head. So net, you know, if you get a really prolific dahlia and you find the right market where you can continuously sell, then a dahlia can be very profitable for you. But otherwise, I would argue that something like a rose lily could be more profitable, or even lisianthus, because even though they have less than a 3-week holding capacity, they stay well in the vase for like up to 2 weeks. They have multiple bloom heads, so you have multiple chances. It's just something to consider, right? If you sell dahlias to florists, keep going. If you don't sell dahlias to florists and you're growing them and you're struggling to find a market, are dahlias the most profitable crop for you to grow? So you just saw me stapling these business cards on there. I just got them in the mail yesterday. I made them last week. They should have been made a full season ago, but better late than never, right? I made these on Canva, which I have a pro subscription to. You don't need a pro subscription to make and print. What I love about Canva is how easy it is to use. I am traditionally a Photoshop user. Canva basically has allowed me to not need to use Photoshop for 95% of the stuff that I do. And it creates better stuff than I ever would have in Photoshop, because there's a lot of stock imagery. Like all of these elements over here are all free. Previously, I would have had to buy those elements, bring them into Photoshop to make them. So I pay $12 a month, I think it is. And it is money well spent, especially because nowadays, if you use Photoshop, you have to pay a monthly subscription fee. So the way I designed this was on the back, I have some space for me to write a note. And so I had asked my friend, do you want a little note? So she said yes. The note basically says something to the tune of, teachers can make such a profound impact on our lives and should be honored as heroes, by Rainn Wilson. I think that's the guy who plays Dwight on The Office. I was writing these last night. I was like, I think that's Dwight. And then love, Hannah, and have a great and fun school year. So these are going to basically accompany every single bouquet I have. In the past, I used to put vase life care instructions on here, and it's just, I find that to be helpful for a very small percentage of people, because a lot of people who buy my flowers already know, and verbally I always try to remind them to please just change the water every couple of days. So I'm hoping that with this piece on the back, people will know to go to my website to look for flower subscriptions, because that's where a lot of my, or the majority of my income comes from. It's the CSA and the subscriptions. Hey, so I just finished deliveries about a couple of hours ago, got some other work done, and wanted to wrap up this video with two things. The first, it's the time of year where a lot of kids are starting school. If not, they've already started schools. This is a really good time to use the PTA groups that you're involved in, soccer games, things that you might have a lot of interaction with moms especially, and market your flowers. I mean, a lot of us are growing dahlias. Some of us might still have some lisianthus. We've got a lot of those high value crops where you could just put a few of them together and make very profitable $10 bouquets. So the reason why I say this is because if there's a fundraiser, if there's anything where you could sell in mass quantities, at least 10 bouquets of something, keep it low at $10, you might be able to churn out quite a few bouquets at a profitable price. So I think that mom groups are always a fantastic outlet for advertising. And of the 2 orders that I got today, they were all word of mouth from fellow moms. One mom talks to another mom, and you know, they don't order right away, but when there's a need, they order it. So moms have been my best word of mouth outlet. The second thing I want to talk about is the rose lilies. So one, where do I get my rose lilies from? I personally buy mine from Onings. Onings, I think it's Onings. Hank Onings is the guy who I contact when I want to put in an order. Now, the problem with rose lilies is that, like other lilies, you have to order in mass quantities, kind of like tulips. And I don't know about you, but growing 300 of a single variety, especially when you're first starting out, is a little bit, we'll call it dangerous, or if not, I don't have the confidence that I'm going to be able to sell all of it. And I'm glad I didn't order 300 of single variety. I ordered a mixed crate. So Onings does a mixed crate variety of OT hybrids. So you would get a mix of the single OTs as well as the double OTs, which are the rose lilies. Now, I feel like they do a really good job of giving you a diverse amount of lilies, including having a good mix of rose lilies in there. So it's not like out of 250, you're only getting 50 rose lilies. I feel like usually at least a third to a half is rose lilies. So it's definitely worth looking into. So reach out to Onings. And I think Jen Martin is their like person in the admin office who will send you like the availability list. And then when you order, you'll coordinate through Hank. Now, that being said, even with a mix, you're bringing in at least 250, which is a lot for a smaller grower. So another outlet is you can buy them in smaller quantities. So I want to say b.a.r.e definitely has lilies. I don't know if they have rose lilies, but there is another person out there who runs a Facebook group, kind of like Jake, except she's a lot nicer. I feel like a lot of people get anxiety ordering through with Jake. I personally have never ordered with Jake, but I'll put a screenshot of the Facebook group up here. Join it. She's got rose lilies. Her rose lilies are giant. Here is a photo of the rose lilies. 4 stems here. I would say you could probably get away with selling 2 stems for like $15 to $20, which makes this super profitable, even though each bulb is a little bit more expensive than what I pay because she's got bigger bulbs. So that is a very good alternative if you're a smaller grower and you're only looking to buy like 25 to 50 at a given time. So just wanted to put the plug out there for another place to buy your bulbs. Now I'm going to sign off by showing you what my lilies look like when I took them out of the refrigerator after holding them for 2 weeks in the fridge, a little bit more than 2 weeks for some varieties. So you'll see the progression of that. And then right now I'm going to show you what my current rose lilies look like in the field, so you can get an idea of the progression. It's been cooler, so they're definitely progressing at a slower rate. And it also has been, the days are getting shorter. So we expect we expect lily growth to slow down at this time of year because of that. But if this was at the height of summer, like July, these would have ripened or started blowing open a lot more quickly. So I still have a few days left till Wednesday when I need these stems. I have plenty of time, especially with the hot weather coming up. And I'll see if I can do a subsequent video to show you what they look like on game day, which is next Wednesday. So let me show you what these lilies, or these rose lilies, look like right now. So you might say very little change from yesterday. I feel like these bulbs actually got a little bit bigger. So right now, I think I saw one bud with some petals lifting. This is a good sign. So hopefully the others will also start lifting, and I'll have these ready for Wednesday. So I just took these lilies, or rose lilies, out from the refrigerator over here. There's not a ton of stems, and I still have some of these single typical lilies in here. I don't need to take these out yet because right now it's Tuesday, so there's still 3 more days. I would take these out on Thursday just so that they start opening. So these need a lot shorter of a lead time to open than these rose lilies. Now, the reason why I love working with rose lilies is because these were picked at least a week to 2 weeks before today. And you can see something like this is starting to open. This one had like a third or a fourth bud over here and it clearly fell off, or I snipped it off for whatever reason, but still two very great viable buds. And this one will still open, though it will open a little bit more white. The later buds just open with a little bit less vibrancy. But for something like this color or for a white, it doesn't matter. It matters a little bit more for something like this. You'll just see this continue to open up in a lighter pink. So the reason why I love this is because this gives me so much flexibility in terms of when I want to use these, especially if I have something like a fridge or a cooler. So I could have brought these to the market on last Sunday where I sold out. I didn't know it was going to sell out, but I'm glad I didn't, because now this allows me to use a very, how do you say it? A very bulky stem, premium stem, to make a lower price bouquet and still be profitable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how these open up over the next couple of days and what they look like during go time on Friday. Now, if I feel like that these are not opening up fast enough, the good news is I could technically bring them outside where it is a lot warmer. So right now in here, it is actually 71 degrees, which is kind of warm, but it is still dark. There's, you know, lack of humidity. Later this week, especially, I think starting tomorrow, it's going to get to the high 80s. So I could always bring these outside and have them open up a little bit more. So we are now a full 35 hours from when I last filmed. You can see that there is some progress in these stems opening up. I did have to use two yesterday, so there was a much pinker one that I used for a la carte bouquet. This one is starting to open up, and it's opening up a lot more. I would say this one's opening up faster than some of the other white ones. This one's called Diantha, I believe. This is Amistad. This is, I want to say, Chardonnay or Blizzard. Now, by contrast, you saw what these stems looked like yesterday in the cooler, and you can see how they look right now. They are starting to slowly open up over here. Even this one, you have the anthers showing. So I always pull these off because then they start getting very powdery and then they start staining. So I'm going to remove all of these, and that will also help prolong the vase life of the lily over here. So yeah, we'll check back in tomorrow. Day 3. Few more have opened up. This one is definitely opening up. And the funny part is I have a lot of demand for the white rose lilies for next Wednesday. So I am going to try to save the white ones and use up the amistads along with this one in the premium bouquets. And I think that I should have more than enough stems for tomorrow. Here is day 3. So you can see the white ones are definitely starting to open up. This one opened up a ton. Most of these are pollenless, but once in a while you find this, so you want to pick it off immediately or else it starts getting powdery. So these are looking good. I'm going to keep them out for a little bit more. You guys saw how the Amistad looked in the jars. This one will likely open in a couple of days. So I'm going to keep these out here. And pretty much, I don't even think I'm going to put them back in the fridge before Wednesday. And by the time Wednesday comes, they'll be perfectly open for the events on Saturday that the designers will be using these for. So hopefully seeing this visual is helpful for you. One of the things I love is a relatively empty fridge so that I can replenish my stock. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao, everyone.